Hi there, poetry buffs, and welcome to Bush Slam. This is the show that puts poets and poetry in motion across Australia. I'm HD Nelson. I'm up front at the wheel of the Slam bus. This week, the Bush Slam bus pulls up in Cowra. Cowra is an agricultural centre, big on beef and grapes. But today's growth is set against a vast historical backdrop, the Japanese prisoner of war breakout during World War II. On August the 5th, 1944, 1,000 Japanese prisoners jumped the fence at a nearby camp. It was a night of intense conflict and great subject matter for this week's Slammers. They have 3 days to capture the soul, the magic, the drama of the place, and then perform their verse before the citizens of the joint for a thumbs up or a thumbs down. That's your Bush Slam story, so let's meet our poets.
My name's Joel Maher. I live in Melbourne. I'm a rapper.
I'm a minstrel with principles that are simple. I'm a minstrel with simple principles that are sensible. Like don't go to war over oil or petrol. Don't follow governments that are deceptional. And people who get plastic surgery look extraterrestrial.
G'day, I'm Carol Heuchan. I'm a bush poet.
My family's all in toilets, a trade considered grotty, but we find it quite appealing, I guess you could say. We're potty. Now there's cousin Paul from Paddington makes porcelain pots, oh mercy. Pretty blooming fancy just for simply pointing Percy.
With poets under starters' orders, how will inner city rapper Joel Maher cope playing away from his regular beat? Or could bush poet Carol Heuchan have a leg up with a rural home ground advantage? Carol's first stop is the sobering Japanese military cemetery. While Joel struggles to unearth links in the landscape in the paddocks where the breakout took place.
I'm sitting on the ruins of the old Japanese prisoner of war camp. There's very little else to signify that this is where over, I think it was a few thousand prisoners of war all up were living here. And you can kind of sense that there's this bubbling sadness and resentment and loss. I just started just noting things like the cockatoos and the wind and dry grass and the brambles and the old dead tree down there and the eucalyptus. Just noting things. I like to just kind of take snapshots, word snapshots, and then sort of expand on it from there. Cowra seems to be a valley and big flatland of farmland down this way, and then some mountains up the back. And I just imagine for a Japanese soldier who has no familiarity with the Australian landscape, it would have been horrible.
As soon as you walk in here, you can tell there's something different.
Well, it is the one and only Japanese military cemetery anywhere in the world outside of Japan itself. The cemetery contains the bodies of the Japanese who died in the breakout, plus all other Japanese nationals who died in Australia during the Second World War.
And is this the actual site here where the original escapees from the prison?
It certainly is.
This is the paddock.
This is the actual spot where they buried the 231 Japanese who died on the night of the breakout. There are people here who died in internment camps that range in ages from babies right through to to 70-year-old people, because if you're a Japanese national during the Second World War, you were interned,
weren't you? Yes.
Yeah. There was a 93-year-old lady came out, and she was the sister of one of the Japanese who died in the breakout, and she kneeled in front of his grave and had a tear in her eye, and she said she could go back home to Japan and say to her parents, go to their grave and say that her brother was being looked after by people in a foreign country. And it was quite an emotional time for everyone who was here when that happened.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Wow. I found a really strong connection to the mothers of what happened. that was my strongest feeling, and that's, you always write about what really impacts with you. I think it's part of the heart of the poet to tell these sort of stories. Yeah, and to make people think. You don't have to tell them what to think, so long as they think about it. If you couldn't write a story about this, you couldn't write a story about anything. And we poets write stories about anything, but this is a special story. This is a special story.
To fill in the Breakout story, Joel and I have made a beeline for the Cowra Visitors Centre. We've got before us a fantastic display based on the Cowra Breakout, but it's done in a terrific modern sort of style, isn't it?
I mean, I'm noticing right now that there is a hologram, which I'm very impressed. I love what they've done with it. And, oh, look, she's moving.
Hello, my name is Claire Simons.
That's incredible!
Incredible technology. Well, possibly Japanese.
It could easily be. Certainly invented probably by the Japanese, but little. Did you expect it to be bigger?
I was kind of hoping she'd be bigger, but I mean, it's hard to find actors that size.
In my life, the Cowra Breakout doesn't figure.
There was the censorship of the event
Huge.
at the time,
Yeah.
and then they admitted that there was this giant escape, which I guess possibly was also because if they had have like broadcasted on the TVs at the time, did they have TVs at the time? No.
Sadly, no.
They had the cinemas.
They certainly had newsreels, yeah.
The newsreels, then there would have been probably panic and chaos, and people in Sydney might have expected to see Japanese, you know, random Japanese
Wandering about.
Wearing great.
I've seen this bit before where they go to fight the Japanese who were breaking out, and the Australians were taken so off their guard, they fought the whole war in their pyjamas.
It really speaks of the Australian character. I
Very
think,
good
that the
job.
only battle on Australian soil was fought in pyjamas.
Indeed. With day one powdering in the dusk, the inner city rapper and the bush balladeer run a poetry clinic on the motel veranda, exploring stylistic differences.
I like the syllable rhythmic rhyme as well as like the syllable ridicule, pinnacle,
Except they don't rhyme.
and typical. They don't rhyme, but they've got that rhythm that's smooth.
Oh, they got the rhythm. I like the rhythm.
You're a
Yeah, I
horse
like the
lady.
rhythm.
You know about the
I
galloping.
like the rhythm. I like the rhythm. Yeah.
We're both word nerds.
Oh yeah, but I have seen, I think, some of the worst examples of poetry, in inverted commas,
Yes.
is bush poetry doggerel.
Yes.
A lot of people say, I'm a bush poet, and you think, cringe, because a lot of it is, without sounding pompous, a lot of it is doggerel and terrible.
Yeah.
But we write now about all sorts of things, the past, the present, the future, the city, the country. It's supposed to make you laugh, make you think, or make you cry.
I've heard a lot of bush
all
poetry
about,
that does make me laugh
it's
a
not
lot.
just about fly-blown sheep and, you know, trout.
And trout.
Trout.
Trout and the esky.
Trout. Yeah, it's not just about that.
Day two dawns and Joel is on the lurk, sampling the sound of the street.
Every time I walk into a small town, I kind of look over my shoulder and just look around with a sort of a little bit of hesitation, because I know that if you grow up Asian or Aboriginal or poor or worst of all, an artist in one of these towns, it can be kind of dangerous. And I'm trying to leave my own preconceptions at the door, but I could feel I have to get a lot of that stuff out in my writing to begin with. There's definitely an element of like being shown the brave face of Cowra. But there's another side. Like, this is a town that has more than just the past to it. It's a very much a living, breathing place, and I've been maybe even like more inspired by just walking the streets between some of the stuff I've seen than by the tourist shop.
Cowra's Rail Museum is the home of old trains and chock-a-block full of the romance of rolling stock, but it's home to more than just big donks. Now, the other great thing about the museum is there's ghosts here.
We have 2 haunted carriages. We have one that's actually got a little girl and a gentleman in it. And we also have the famous lady in the pink dressing gown, which appears every now and then, about every couple of months.
Have you seen the pink lady?
That
Sorry?
was my line. Have
Yeah,
you seen the pink lady?
Yes, I've seen the pink lady.
An attractive woman?
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
No.
Not with
Were
her.
you sober?
Yes, I was.
Well, let's go and have a look, though, at the ghost and see if we can scare one up.
I reckon.
Let's go. Let's see what we can find.
Terrific.
This is the original carriage where the lady in the pink dressing gown lives. A very nice carriage. This was a first class.
Here you go, Pete. Carol. Alrighty. beautiful, isn't
Gosh,
it?
it's little, isn't it?
It's a bit tight.
Only small.
Was she a small ghost?
Well, about average height, about 5'8", as far as I saw it. She actually died in here of a heart attack.
Right, with the rollers in?
With the rollers
and
in.
the flowing gown.
And the dressing gown,
The
yes,
dressing
it was all
gown.
taken, yes. Yeah.
Wow. Now, that's the stuff of poetry, isn't it,
That
Carol?
is really, that is.
know,
That is.
She had her head in rollers. Her mind was on strollers. She booted one for, I don't know,
The middle of the night, she
The middle
died
of
of fright.
Perfect.
I know a little bit about the men's shed. It's a bit of a gathering place for older guys to come and meet and talk.
We're trying to give fellas who have got, perhaps retired or off their farms or whatever, something else to do apart from just sitting in a club or a pub all day or sitting at home annoying the wife.
Yeah, a lot of these guys are sort of my dad's age, and he's, how can I say, he's really has a hard time opening up sometimes.
Well, we encourage fellas too to get involved in the conversations around the shed, and most of them don't have a problem.
Do you touch on some pretty serious stuff like depression, or I mean,
suicide amongst the male population in this town is too high. All caused by depression mainly.
Yeah.
So what we try and do is intervene before then,
Yeah.
and get the fellas into the shed, just to give them some avenue of get talking to people who have maybe gone through the same problems themselves. Because when the farming community is financially depressed, the town is not getting the income that it needs to exist. So it's not only the farmers, but it's also local business people. But it's caused by people just not knowing what to do next. To get to the stage in life where you just can't think of an answer to your problems.
Yeah.
So what we try and do is, with the help of other professionals in town, is to try and give them answers as best we can.
Yeah, I sometimes think the expression of it, just in admitting it and saying it, is therapy in itself. Like that is the...
Oh, look, once you get a person to admit that they've got a problem with depression, you're halfway home.
Yeah, exactly.
Because then they're more inclined to come and get some help.
Yeah.
Can I ask whether you're sensing, like me, that the ghost story is central to the Cowra experience?
Oh, very much. It's central to the whole Cowra thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everywhere you go, it's about people who died in the past. And we're making light of it, but it's really not light. It's, you know, everybody's somebody, aren't they?
And this is an emotion that poetry is central to poetry often, isn't it? The idea of people left behind, loss, grief.
You're the karma of the railway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we come to it and you're alone with a blank sheet of paper, a pencil and a rubber, Cowra on the top of the page, underline, tap, tap, tap.
Let the ghost write the rest. I'm in the spirit. I'm in the spirit.
You're going to channel something.
I'm going to try.
As day 2 dips over the horizon, Joel bangs away on his laptop, giving the bump and beat of the street a lively workout.
I'm just writing out a whole bunch of various like verses. Like it's generally rhythmic based. Like I'll sit down and write a lot of stuff and I have to say it and actualize it and bring it out, but most of it's rubbish. And then I go through and find like the 10% of gold that's in there and take that and expand on it. Cowra, I'd like to ask you, just how Asian are you? You see, this is a question I've been asked on more than one occasion because my face is a variation of what you think in this nation. Are you hologram or cartoon? Has the world just moved on past you? Is it past you? Is it part of you to explore the other side of you? Cowra, your sons and daughters are bored beyond belief. They're fed up with being fed the myths of war's recalled romance with stories of the breakout. They'd rather see Cowra breakdance. And pubs become the sum of days' work done and quick relief underneath the hum of LCD flat screen mute TVs, and dad lets anger simmer while mum prepares the dinner, and amputated hearts give way to saturated livers. So yeah, I don't know if that's going to go down well with the Rotary folk.
I knew exactly what I had to write about, but I've been reluctant. I had my feelings in place, but not in words. There were things in it that I had to let settle and become comfortable with, I think. And it was a bit raw at that stage. I really didn't know whether I could do that or not. I even toyed with taking a totally different track to protect myself.
Well, it's day 3 now, and the bush slammers have been banging away at the big issues that surround Cowra, and for a change of pace, we brought them to this spectacular Japanese garden here in Cowra for a tea ceremony.
I saw in the ceremony a very spiritual thing, a very connecting thing. It wasn't just have a cup of tea. There was a lot more to it than that. I found a really strong connection on the first day. I knew as soon as I was in that cemetery, I felt the very strong vibes. It opened doors that I wasn't expecting to open, because I related to losing a son overseas. I just felt that. It's happened to me, so. He was skiing in New Zealand, and he's a very good skier, and it was done under all care and what have you with a guide. They were skiing the Ramsay Glacier in New Zealand, and it was just a freak accident. A snow bridge collapsed. They tried to rescue him. He was still okay on the first snow bridge, and then just out of the blue that collapsed as well, and it was impossible to go any further, and he's still there. The last few days I've been reluctant to tell anyone about what I'd written. It's been very tough for me. Doors opened on that first day at the cemetery that I didn't expect. It caught me by surprise, and it was very overwhelming.
With the big event minutes away, and even as the crowd gathers, Joel is still polishing his big beat rhymes on the run.
You got to wade through the cliches and tap into something that's. I've got to find something that speaks to me. I know that, like, and more I keep seeing Cowra as a person, and I'm trying to personify my thoughts to that person.
I've written about the whole Japanese war part of it, the cemetery, the prisoners. I wasn't sure whether the way I had put it into words would sit right with me and would sit right with others. And I even tossed up going on a different line altogether. And then I thought, no, you've got to be true to what you feel.
Cowra, it's a pretty unique town. There's a lot of darkness in the history, and it's even more pronounced to me because it feels like I see this veneer or this very sort of brave face that gets painted over the top of what would otherwise be some pretty terrible stories. I'm kind of scared I might get beaten up if I recite what I want to say, but we'll see.
Hello, Cowra, and welcome to Bush Slam once again. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, very good. Perfect. You know the drill, 2 poets, 1 dream. That dream is to win this episode of Bush Slam. And remember, you are the judge and jury here in the magnificent Japanese gardens here in Cowra. And of course, we've got 2 poets for you. First up tonight, can you please give a warm Cowra welcome to Joel Ma?
Hello, Cowra. This is quite a different audience to what I'm used to. A lot. I don't usually read poems. I usually like to memorize them, but because I just wrote this I finished it about 20 minutes ago, it feels like. It's a bit new. Okay, check it out. From where I stand, my mind is galloping across countless kilometres of yellow grassy paddocks and dry farm pasture land. This is thirsty country, like a pub at 5 o'clock in town, sun-drenched ground that's weather-worn like the face of Brian Brown. And there's absurd amounts of sky above me that zoom out wide to find the horizon, and valleys plateau and flatten form like the underside of a giant violin. Spectacular country. The big trucks own the highways, but the cockatoos own the dusk, and the underbrush is secrets that the eucalyptus trees can trust.
You see, there's ghosts up in those hills who gallop across the countryside. I think I caught a glimpse of them on Main Street at the traffic lights. I was told they haunt the farms and abattoirs and factory floors, in the courts upholding laws, and on the lawns where ladies walk. They're in the dams and in the dirt and in the generation gaps and in the cracks and disparities between the whites and blacks. I think I recognize them in the faces of young families who tell their children stories about the land on which we're standing. I dreamt they slept in riverbeds and corrugated iron sheds, and sunset left them ochre red and classic blue for company. They take on many names, and just one of these is Wurundjeri. And other names in foreign script on graves that sit below cherry blossom, alongside ghosts that fought their battles in nothing but pajama cotton. And over time, resentment softens. That's just what happens. And eventually, even farmers' sons will start beatboxing and rapping. You see, my mind gallops across the question now, how do you find the soul of a town? Is it more than what they sell in tourist shops and history books? More than what you see in maps and GPS contraptions? More than local gossip about brawls and gronks and accidents? Is it in the way we share what's common to us all and pass down stories from the past and still let the young move forward? The ghosts, they whisper this aloud in the wind that blows me down. You see, it's the living, breathing people that make up a living, breathing town. Thank you.
Joel Marr. Yes. It's amazing to think he did all that in about 3 days. It's a fantastic achievement. Our second poet tonight in the Bush Slam here in Cowra in the Japanese Gardens presents poetry in a completely different way. Can you please make welcome, all the way from the Hunter Valley, Carol Heuchan.
Thanks, HG, and thanks, Carol, for having us here. This has been, I just can't say what this has been like, this journey. I have to explain, I got very strong vibes from the very first day when we went to the war cemetery. It was a very tough few days for me. You'll understand why when you hear my poem. There's a township on the Lachlan where the loyalties divide, where eucalypts and cherry blossoms flourish side by side, to tend a sheltered haven over lawns of lines of stone that mark a final resting place with poignant overtone. And if you listen closely to the echoes through the years, you will hear the gentle falling of 1,000 mothers' tears. A living bond of bodies formed a bridge across barbed wire, while bullets strafed their bodies in a blazing burst of fire. And when the last were herded and returned, once more in shame, the body count was tallied, and regardless of the blame, our soldiers buried ours and theirs, both honoured and respected, to set the scene for evermore, two nations now connected. My son lies lost, alone beneath another country's soil, and from those heinous thoughts I will eternally recoil. But at least it was his choosing, an adventure to explore, and not like these poor wretched souls who lost their lives to war. What circumstance would make a mother give away the right to care for where her son is lying, when and how she might? She'd have to know this resting place was equal to no other, a place of peace, respect and care to satisfy a mother. This piece of land's not ours or theirs, it's part of all the world. We need to live in harmony, with every flag unfurled. The hooligans who drape themselves in racism and hate should take a leaf from this town's book before it's all too late. I thank you, town of Cowra, for the pity you have shown. May your bell be heard forever, may your deeds be ever known. Example of compassion, of learning how to cope. The rising sun and Southern Cross entwined right here with hope.
Carol Heuchan, ladies and gentlemen, Carol Heuchan. Here we go. Now we got the tricky bit. Remember, you are the judge and jury of the Bush Slam. We'll do them in order. Those who think Joel Marr won, clap now. Very good. He's got a big score. A very fat 8.5, I thought there from the Cowra audience. Now those who think Carol Heuchan won, applaud now. I declare the Bush Slam winner here in Cowra to be Carol Heuchan. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. The Bush Slam in Cowra, packed, boxed and buried. Thanks very much, Cowra, for having the Bush Slam here in the Japanese garden. See you again. Bye now.
I like Joel's. I thought he was very different. Yeah, I thought he was fantastic.
I like Carol's poem best because it appealed to my emotions, I think, and just made me cry.
I mean, I liked both of them, but I thought Carol's was really heartfelt, really true to the town and to herself.
So you're not a hip-hop man by heart?
Not altogether, but I'm changing. Yeah.
See ya!
Thanks for